Hi, I'm dotJenna. I'm a social media consultant to small businesses and mid-sized businesses. I just wanted to share a little bit about who I am and what makes me qualified to handle the launch of your social media campaign. I got my very first job when I was 12 years old. I am the hardest worker you will ever meet. I've always worked. I always started lemonade stands. I would always go door to door and say, is there anything I can help you with? I would love to wash your car. I'll babysit your kids, and I would raise money, and we would go to Six Flags with the money. And I've always been a writer. I've written since I was a little girl. I used to write poetry. Whenever I was in my early 20s, I used to sell Herbie's door to door. And that's where I found out that I am a darn good saleswoman. I loved going door to door. I know, I'm crazy. I loved it because I knew that every time a door got slammed in my face, that I was that much closer to a yes. And I learned to appreciate the no. I sold those Kirby vacuums big time. They were calling me Wonder Woman. I was able to put myself through college during my 20s. I was so broke. I would go to Thrift Town to buy clothes. I landed a job as an executive recruiter in Dallas. Wearing this 75-cent Neiman Marcus dress. I kid you not. I wish I had a picture. It was hideous. Well, the first day they told me, they said, you see that phone? They said, if you pick up that phone, you will make money. And I go, you're a kid. That's all I got to do? Pick up that phone? Give me that phone. So, honey, let me tell you, I made phone calls. My first year, I made $100,000. My second year, I made $200,000. Third year, I made $300,000. So here I am at like 28 years old, making $300,000 a year. So I went from Thrift Town to Nordstrom Town, okay? I was so good at recruiting that every single month I would win the producer of the month. Like we would have the group meeting and it would be like, yay, you know, she won. They would give a plaque every single month for the producer of the month. I had so many plaques, they quit giving plaques out. My entire wall was full, you know, from the top row after row of plaques. I was only there for 2 years. I beat every record the company had in 20 years. It was a great time for recruiting, but there were 20 recruiters there, and I was the top recruiter, to say the least. I'll never forget the owner of Danbury Group. He would walk by my office and go, hey, phenom, you're a phenom. After 2 years, I started my own recruiting firm, First Place Recruiting. My company served Fortune 500 companies such as EDS, Texas Instruments, American Airlines, and GTE. By the time I was 30, I was making $500,000 a year. My CPA said that I was doing better than doctors. I would make $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in a month. I had a big office off the tollway in West Grove. September 11, 2001 brought change to my life. Once I really knew what I was doing, I really needed a challenge, pioneer personality. And I knew that there was a purpose in my life beyond sitting there on the phone making 300 phone calls a day. And so I wanted to challenge myself and go into something that was more in line with my purpose. I went to Bible school. I went to Christ for the Nations. I took a sabbatical, kind of positioning myself to do the speaking and the books and all of that. I really wanted to learn the web in order to publish my writing. I started teaching myself web design. I don't have the kind of personality that's a programmer, but I forced myself to learn programming. I forced myself to do whatever it took to get me to where I wanted to go. So I would sit there for like 17 hours a day. 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm sitting there. The process was like being in a straitjacket, hung upside down by your toes, blindfold. I did not know what the heck I was doing. You know, I read books on XML, CSS, HTML, JavaScript, PHP. I was programming in PHP. I wanted to understand the process. So I taught myself everything. SEO. I had coaches. I went and bought every book on writing and just marketing that you could get at Barnes & Noble. I've got them all. Finally got the website I was working on, one of the websites, to the top of Google. We started getting phone calls. The phone started ringing. And I was like, this is a business. I started themarketingshop.com in 2004. I started calling people out of the phone book again. I don't know, that's just my gig, okay? So I started calling realtors and I was like, hi, you know, I would like to build a website for you that's search engine optimized. And they were like, huh? Search engine what? I was like, search engine optimization, because my company, which I started, which is themarketingshop.com, was the first real estate search engine optimization company in the planet. My website company, themarketingshop.com, is always on the cutting edge of web development and lead generation. And so one day, my phone stopped ringing. I had staff and everybody was doing good. November 2008, my phone stopped ringing. I was freaking out because I had people and they were looking at me and they had to be paid. And I was like, hang on just a second. You know, and we were having all kinds of economic trouble. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Well, my dream has always been to speak and to write, right? So I decided to have an event. Well, like 30 people showed up just to hear me talk. And it wasn't the most perfect, my slides were out of order a little bit, but you know what? We got pictures of that event. And we ended up putting those pictures on Facebook, and then I started getting popular. That's when I created the dotJenna brand. I started sharing my techniques as they were happening online. I accidentally wore a hot pink dress to one of my events, and it really stuck with me. I even stood on my head at one of my seminars to prove a point. I started getting famous among my target market. I started getting in doors that I had tried to get in for years, you know, since 2004. Suddenly, I was getting calls and I was getting, you know, people were thinking I was great. I started fulfilling my dream of being a public speaker. Here was a platform where people could find out what I knew. Before, I had a lot of knowledge, but I could only tell one person at a time on the phone. On a fluke, I decided to sign up for the influence contest earlier this year with Fast Company magazine. I didn't even think I had a chance, honey. I was like, yeah, right. It was going on for 30 days. I didn't even pay attention. That night, my number just rose. And I went from 30,000 to like 8,000, and 8,000 to 3,000, and 3,000 at 1,000. And it was so neat because on the wall of the Influence Project, your head got bigger, like your picture. Like the more votes you got, the bigger your picture got, so the bigger your head got. And my head was swelling, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Come to Earth, Lady Pop. Because I had to pop, here's my little picture. It's right there. So here's all the millions of people, 30,000 people. We all got the magazine, you can barely see. But here's my little pic, and I'm very proud of myself for this. This was a big deal for me. And this is just the beginning. I am so excited. The best is yet to come. Have a fabulous day. Talk to you soon. Go to dotjenna.com to learn about our Synergy Coaching Program.